Hello and welcome to my channel. This is Oare and today we're gonna talk about hostile mob farming. And more precisely, I'm gonna show you a design for a compact yet efficient general hostile mob farm that I recently came up with. But before I can show you the finished product, let's review the requirements that make a decent general hostile mob farm. The first requirement is of course to try and maximize the number of spawnable spots. In order to do that, we need to understand how spawning works in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, which is actually quite simple. Basically, each tick the game picks a set of X and Z coordinates. Let's imagine here it picked X equals 7 and Z equals 8. When it has these two coordinates, it then attempts to spawn hostile mobs on each and every spawnable spot that it finds along the Y-axis up to the spawning mob caps. The mob cap for the surface layer here is 8. The mob cap for the cave layers here is 16 in total. Another factor determines how many mobs can spawn in one given spawning attempt. It's the maximum number of spawnable mobs of each mob type. Some mobs, such as the zombie, can spawn in herds. Zombies can spawn in herds of up to 4, skeletons in herds of up to 2, etc, etc. Some other mobs can only spawn in units of 1, such as the creeper. So imagine we have one spawning attempt successful here, and we get, for example, 4 zombies here. Then we get up to 16 mobs on these 16 platforms underneath it. So of course, in order to try and maximize the number of spawning spots, what this means is that we are going to have to try and maximize the number of platforms in our mob farm. Which also means we're gonna have to try to keep our platforms as flat as possible in order to squeeze as many as possible in the R44 spawning sphere. Our spawning platforms must also be of a decent size. In my designs, I usually tend to go for 17 by 17 because it's convenient for water streams, while at the same time remaining compact and providing a sufficient number of spawning spots. Now let's move on to the second requirement. The second requirement is to try and maximize the speed and efficiency of mob killing. And in order to do that, we're gonna use, of course, a trident killer. Specifically here, what I call the bouncing trident killer, which is decent in speed, but more than anything, is relog friendly and takes care of XP, preventing XP buildup and lag. As for our third requirement, well, it's gonna be to try and maximize the speed at which mobs are transported into the drop chute and into the trident killer. In order to do that, we're gonna use a fairly standard solution, which is a layer of scaffolding with water streams on top of it. This is a very decent solution for most mobs, such as the creepers, because they're tall enough to get caught into the stream as soon as they spawn. Unfortunately, this solution can't or doesn't work on smaller mobs, such as the spider or baby zombies, which don't get caught into the stream. One way to work around that is to use soul sand with bubble columns on top of it. This allows you to push spiders and baby zombies into the stream properly in order for them to get carried into the drop chute. We could imagine a design where we have basically soul sand and bubble columns every 4 blocks. This would very efficiently catch spiders and baby zombies upon spawning each and every time and carry them into the drop chute. It's actually a solution that was explored by Alastor about 2 years ago. I'll post a link to their farm in the description. The problem with this solution is that, of course, well, a quarter of your spots are not spawnable anymore. So is there a way that we could use bubble columns and soul sand in order to push spiders and baby zombies into our streams without destroying so many spawning spots? Enters ice. Ice has a very interesting characteristic. It sort of blocks pathfinding without blocking it. Let me show you. Let's spawn a couple of mobs on this ice platform. As you can see, they're not moving at all, and they will never move. I can guarantee that to you. However, if I place a non-ice solid block, for example here, eventually they'll detect it and move towards it. So let's wait a little while, but it can take quite some time. Here we can see the spider detected it and moved towards it. And as you can see, it didn't attempt to stop on the ice. It went straight for the concrete block and only stopped when it reached it. Now, what happens if I place more concrete blocks? For example, let's say I create 2 lanes of concrete blocks. One here. And another one here. Let's spawn another spider in the middle. Normally, it should detect the concrete blocks much faster than when there was only one. See, it moved almost instantly. And it moved towards this lane. Now let's wait a little while and see how it behaves. And here, we just saw it cross the ice to the other lane. But it never stopped in between. And it didn't attempt to go to either this ice on this side or this ice on this side. So basically with ice, the interesting thing is that mobs will willingly move between lanes of non-ice solid blocks on top of ice, but will never stop on the ice itself. And this is precisely what we're going to take advantage of in our farm. So now let's move on to another world where I can show you what exactly we're going to do. And here we are. This is basically the layout that we're going to use in today's farm. As you can see, we have lanes of solid blocks. Let me get rid of this spider. We have lanes of non-ice solid blocks, which are spawnable, and lanes of ice, which is also spawnable. So what's going to happen is that our mobs will spawn either on ice or on concrete, and then move either along the concrete lanes or cross from one lane to the other, the next, over the ice. Strategically placed are these soul sand blocks here, etc. These blocks should, in theory, catch mobs fairly easily, either when they move along the lanes, especially for spiders, which have a wide hitbox, or when they cross. For example, let's say a spider is here and decides to go like this to try and reach this point here. It gets caught by this soul sand here, or the bubble that will be on the soul sand here. Let's verify that theory by spawning a couple of spiders and see how they behave. So soon they should try and move. Well, this one wasn't particularly bright, but the second one, as you just saw, walked right above this soul sand block, which means it would have been caught into the bubble column and pushed into the stream. Let's spawn a couple more spiders. This one is caught, this one is caught too, and this one is caught too. So as you can see, they move fairly quickly because there are many non-ice blocks, and they also move quite a few steps each time, which almost guarantees that they get caught very quickly into the bubble columns, which push them into the water stream. So now let's move on to another world where we can see the finished design. So here it is. As you can see, it's fairly compact. It's made up of 15 layers, replicating the exact layout that we just saw, populated with scaffolding and bubble layers as well as water streams above them. As for the drop chute in the middle, let me show it to you. It uses a system that was devised by GoldenHelmet in his very good general mob farm, which basically relies upon a downwards bubble column that catches spiders and forces them down, preventing them from catching to the sides here and climbing back up onto the platforms. It's a very good system. I'll leave a link to GoldenHelmet's farm in the description. As for rates, well, basically I'll be talking about rates in terms of useful items, that is eyes, string, gunpowder, bones, arrows, and zombie flesh, the measured average is around 5,800 per hour, with lows in the 5,400s and highs in the 6,200s. As you can see, it's quite entertaining to watch all these mobs falling down here and getting killed. Here is the AFK spot, which is optimized for one single unit of this farm, and I think that's it for today. I will leave a world download for the completed farm as well as for the layout in the description, so feel free to download them and play around and test the design for yourselves. This is it. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you again soon in another video. Bye!